Welcome back. There's not many clubs that can play in a nicer venue than the club we're featuring tonight. There's Newlands, and PPC Newlands has one of the best venues playing in the shadow of the mountain. And then there's another club that's not necessarily in the shadow of the mountain, but they're there or thereabout on the coast. I'm talking about none other than Greenpoint Cricket Club. And tonight we're joined by the chairman, Mr. Devin Jeffries. Thank you for taking time out and coming to see us, because I believe you had other pressing matters, but thank you for making time for us.
It's a pleasure to come through.
Devon, Greenpoint Cricket Club, as I mentioned to you earlier, there's been different sort of names. It was Greenpoint, Cape Tech Greenpoint, and then you mentioned it was Greenpoint CPUT. It's just back to Greenpoint Cricket Club now. Just tell us a bit more about the club.
Yeah, it's gone through, we originally kicked it off in 1882. So that's when the club originally started, obviously as Greenpoint Cricket Club. Over the years, we've had a squash club there as well, Argonaut Squash Club, which a couple of the viewers might know. And then over time, we eventually merged with Cape Technicon. And Cape Technicon obviously evolved into CPUT, and that relationship stood, so it became CPUT Greenpoint. And then a couple of years ago, CPUT have decided that they're going to go back to their own clubs. And so, yeah, back to the original emblem and the original name, so it's just Greenpoint Cricket Club now.
Geez, 1882, did Jan van Riebeeck play for you guys?
It is up there with the oldest, but that's the oldest. We've actually got a scorecard up on the wall that's got that date on, so it probably predates that, but that's an official date that we can use to say we were around it at that time. So
now you're in that special precinct as well, you know, in Greenpoint, nice sporting precinct. And have you guys always been based there?
We've on the Stephen Oval where we are now. We've been there from the beginning. Obviously, the land was given to Cape Town by the Queen in the common area, and it is a beautiful place to have our home and to play our cricket. As you said earlier, it also comes with its challenges from the city, and obviously being in a place like that with the new athletic stadium and the football stadium and quite a few other clubs using the facilities around there are obviously the challenges that come along with it. But yes, very, very beautiful place to have our home. We like to think it's the most beautiful place to play cricket in South Africa.
Certainly is. Now, to bring you in there, last week we had someone on here that was talking about their club is 40 years old. We've had people with their clubs are 60 years old. Belleville Cricket Club, what they're celebrating 120 years, and then we've got 1882. That's quite a long history. I mean, you guys must be proud of a club like that has stood the test of time.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time, as the sounds of it. And Devin is obviously young at the club. He's been there around, but in leadership, I mean, he's turned a lot around at the club as well. So, but yeah, it's quite a long time, and that legacy you just can't forget. And carrying on. Now, you've mentioned the stadium, and now since the 2010 World Cup, what have the challenges been with the stadium? Now, we also understand that you've got a second field allocated when your one field disappeared because of the stadium. But that was also not up to scratch as to what the decision was. So what are those playing challenges?
The biggest challenge was probably, obviously, historically we had the main oval, and then there were two ovals that we made use of, and obviously our neighbours United Cricket Club also had two additional fields, and all of those fields had grass wickets on them. And obviously with the redevelopment and less space in the area, we've only now got our home ground, and United have also got their home ground with turf wickets, and the two additional fields that were allocated, unfortunately they didn't put the turf wickets down as originally discussed. So it is a bit difficult for us. You know, we've only got the four sides now, and obviously our ones and twos will never play a home game for the same fixture. So that's quite a big challenge. And then obviously being the Atlantic Seaboard, all the events that come along with the stadium, and you know, our dream is to have that precinct open. So if the rugby had to move there, or when there's football on at the stadium, instead of locking the entire precinct down, is actually to have it open and have us playing our fixture and United playing theirs, and if Hamilton's and SK Warmers and the other clubs, the soccer club, have got fixtures, obviously let everything happen on the common and allow the people to sort of experience that as part of what's going on at the stadium. But the big challenge obviously being events and the whole precinct sort of being locked down for those events. That's probably the biggest challenge.
It is the biggest challenge, but also brings us some interesting type of people coming and visiting your club as well, because you had the all-rounder competition prior to start the season. If you can maybe just touch a bit on that. And then also in March, there's probably sounds of the Cape Town Sixers taking place.
Coming through. Yeah.
So those are quite interesting events, which obviously adds value to your club as well.
Yeah, very much so. The first is actually, it was thought up or stolen from somewhere by one of our ex-members who's now living in America. And it's basically a super cricketer competition where we pitch 16 of the best all-rounders in the province against each other in a straight knockout. And we actually did the draw earlier this year. We had our first event, very successful, one-day event. We had our own, I think we spoke about it on the weekend as well, Donovan Henry from Greenpoint. I think most of the club cricketers in Cape Town will know about him. He actually played his 250th first team appearance for the club on Saturday, which is quite special. He represented us, and it was a very successful event, and we ended up with the 1A winners and runners-up in the two respective semi-finals, and then the two Western Province Cricket Club guys playing against each other in the final. So it's probably something we'll look to do next year again, and possibly make it a 2-day with some pool games on the Saturday going into finals and knockout on Sunday. And then the other one you mentioned, the Sixers, we were approached quite recently, and I think very much based on like the Cape Town Tens on the rugby side that happens. A Sixers competition that incorporates professionals, some corporate packages, some development packages, development games, and part of it is also going to be a food and music festival. And there's a few international teams that they're looking to bring out for that. So I actually, unfortunately, will be away. I'm getting married over that weekend, but it should be a very good weekend. It's the long weekend, the last weekend in March, so that should also be a very, very good weekend.
Now that is very interesting, and you've also touched on Donovan Henry. Now I want to chat a bit about Donny and his role he plays in the club. How valuable is that role for a player to be around for that amount of games? Also the time he spent at the club, coming from schools cricket into senior club cricket, and he stayed at Greenpoint. 250 games, that's quite a bit for a club. These days, you don't find that loyalty in players no more. They run after top dollar, they don't have loyalty no more. How important and what value does that add to a club?
It's invaluable, to be honest. It's, as you've just said, guys these days, it's a semi-professional sport, if we can call it that. If you speak to Donovan, some of his low points, he's probably played in every relegation game that we've played in. But, again, it's the belief of you were part of that team that either went up or went down. And he's part of the club. I mean, he's the vice chairman, he's first team player, coach, captain. And as you say, I think over the years he's been offered a lot more to go to many other clubs with us, coming from the Premier League down to First Division A, down to First Division B. And he's always stuck with the club. And I think, like I say, 250 first team caps across many clubs would be, I think, a feat on its own. And for him to have done it and stayed at the club through thick and thin, I think is just a massive, massive achievement, and we're very grateful for him.
Devin, just looking at again at your location, does that help your club to be able to host events, to help generate funds for your club and keep things going? Because just Clinton was mentioning now, with some of the competitions that you guys have going, but then also there are certain events that take place at the stadium, and you're in that precinct. The Cape Town, the South African leg of the Sevens is coming up as well. Are you guys allowed to stay open and make some money out of it in terms of having your bar open and things like that?
It depends on the event. So it depends on the event and the event organisers. Our club manager is very involved in that aspect, and obviously we, as you've just said, we want to try and capitalise as much as we can on it. Some of the events, the Cape Town Argus, obviously, or the Cape Town Cycle Tour that it is now, that's there every year. Rugby 10s, it's obviously during the cricket season as well. So, again, there is sacrifice. Our first side and our second side hardly get to play their home games. We usually only get the 4 instead of the 5. But that's something we have to deal with, and like you say, we get the good with the bad there as well. So there are some events that obviously allow us to stay open, or we can try and work off certain things, and then there are other events that, unfortunately, as I said earlier, they sort of put the whole area under lockdown. So even our cricket playing can't really take place on those event days.
Just before we wrap it up, if there's any aspiring cricketers, be it in the CBD or elsewhere, that would like to join your club, when do you guys practice, and so they can come down and possibly join, and just see if that's the club they want to join?
More than welcome. Every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 o'clock onwards. We usually go from about 5 until 7:30. On a Thursday evening, we do our selection. And we've got a club draw on a Thursday night, which I think at the moment is sitting at about 3,500 rand. So at 8 o'clock, we pull a name out the hat. If you're present and a paid up member, you win it. If you're not, obviously it rolls over till the next month. So that's quite enjoyable. If you want to come down and have a look, I'd say come down on the Thursday. And then obviously we've got all our juniors training on a Friday afternoon from about 3 o'clock onwards.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us, and I know you need to get off to your other pressing matters. All the best for the rest of the season, and I'm sure we'll be making a turn again at the club, because you're in such a perfect venue. Maybe with the rugby tournaments coming up, or whatever, we can come hang out at your club, and then we can go over to the stadium. That was Devin Jeffries, the chairman of Greenpoint Cricket Club. As you heard there, now if you are interested in playing and you live in the CBD, whether you live in the CBD or not, go down to the club. They practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You may even walk away 3,500 Rand richer. After the break, we'll be taking a look at our brand new feature where you could possibly pick up some tips about cricket that you never knew.
Hi, my name is Brandon Rhoda. I'm captain of Elsa's River Northlink Cricket Club, and you're watching From the Clubhouse.